my name is Nomfundo Xaba. I am a broadcaster, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a lover of life. Most importantly, I am a lover of development. And I think in a nutshell, that's who I am. I don't think I set out to do what I ended up doing. I think one of the beauties about life is that if your passion and heart are focused on something, somehow the universe brings it to you. Just to share a bit about my journey on radio, I was such a fan of the station that I currently broadcast on as a university student. And that journey of just observing, hearing, listening to broadcasters back then, appreciating what they did. I used to literally daydream on one day meeting them and just telling them how great of a job they were doing on air. I think when eventually I found an opportunity to audition, the intent was to meet the people I admired so much. And it's remarkable that I ended up winning a competition, getting into broadcasting and learning so much about it. And so that was my introduction to the media space. And I fell in love with telling stories. It evolved to wanting to also make people feel like we are part of their lives. Having them, appreciate what was going on in their own lives, identifying what was going on in the society around them. And so that love for storytelling got me into starting campaigns and initiatives that spoke to, what was happening in life in general and how the everyday person was affected. My biggest inspiration, in fact, I pinch myself even today, the fact that I get to work with these people. There are a number of broadcasters that I grew up listening to. One person specifically that comes to mind as such a voice of the people, I'd say. If you know and you've listened to a lot of radio in KZN, you would know the name Alex Mtiani, and I consider him to be such a wonderful sort of inclusion in the media space, having been a voice and for the people, having asked the questions that people at home wanted to ask to the who's who in the land. And so for me, that has been an inspiration to be the kind of voice and person that is inclusive and to consider that every story is important enough to be told and every person needs to be heard. Another thing also that inspires me are not just the professionals in the space, but are ordinary people. There's a lady that I know that has worked in the transport space for a number of years, and she was recently sharing about just how much of a lack of appreciation she has endured in the recent years before she decided to retire. And for me, it says perhaps we are not spending time to listen to our older people, older generation, to hear them and have that transfer of knowledge happen. And so what has always inspired me was to learn from the best, hear their stories, transfer the knowledge, and look at how we can bring that knowledge forward as we look ahead, as we think, and as we shape the now. One of the biggest challenges, I think, for me was overcoming just a low self-esteem, I'd say. There are moments that in my life, in hindsight, I look and I think I should have given myself permission to succeed. In a world that is run by men, in communities where men are leaders, I feel as women, we should give ourselves. It's not a matter of waiting for a man to say, yes, you can do it, or yes, you should do it, but give yourself permission to lead. Just thinking back into my life and how I was raised by a mother who was a widow, in a community and being able to raise her children and afford them opportunities and schooling, I consider that to be, incredible leadership. And it took me many, many years to appreciate that fact, that it's not a lack of capacity that we have as women, but it's just an opportunity. But opportunity doesn't come because, you scream and shout for it, but it comes because you say, yes, I'm ready, and I'm creating this opportunity for myself. Another challenge was just, how do you balance your love for a medium? People sometimes complain about the media space, but I look at it and I say, but the media space is also a great influencer. Some of the biggest changes in the world were driven by such platforms. So how do you balance the responsibility of the media as drivers of stories and influences, but also with the responsibility of reflecting what greater society is truly like? I think that has been something that influences a lot of the initiatives that I do as well, to balance responsibility, but also just innovation into driving thought patterns and how people see the world. I'm a person, so I'm ambitious, I want to be known as somebody that respected my craft, for one. I also want to be known as somebody that wasn't afraid to speak up and address inequalities. I want to be remembered as a person that created, campaigns and initiatives that spoke directly to challenges and problems that greater society is facing. But beyond just addressing or highlighting a problem, bringing solutions. I want to do that. As I'm doing the work that I'm doing, I'm also just observing at opportunities that I can share the knowledge that I have with others, the younger generation, and so forth. My family is my absolute center. My children, my husband, they center me. I remember growing up, the love I used to get from my family, the validation I received from just family and the love that I got. And so to relax, I spend time with my kiddies. It seems remarkable that you'd want to spend time with a toddler and get puked on, but truly, that calms my mind. It stops me. It reminds me that, life needs you to be present. And yes, we have these goals, we have these dreams, but they are all for nothing if we can't appreciate the simplicity of life. And so my family truly centers me. And yes, I am one person that enjoys some good music now and again, and movies a lot, and series. And yes, I chill. One thing that I've learned over the years, involving myself in initiatives and in business, is that it is difficult, and that's one thing that we shouldn't forget. The journey is a difficult journey, but it is worth it. If your why is strong enough, your why is the one thing that picks you up. On days where you have been faced with a lot of no's, your why will get you up and say, well, I'm one step closer to the yes. The reason why this is important is because we are living in a country that requires innovators to rise up. The tide is against you, yes, but that's how worlds were changed, nations were transformed, economies were grown. It's just ordinary people that said, well, I'm going to be extraordinary and I'm going to do extraordinary things. And one example I want to use, because it's something that also inspired me, was a mom who was near depression, who started writing, who reminded herself that an imagination is important. It's not reserved just for children. And many years later, we know her now as a billionaire who wrote Harry Potter. So give yourself permission to dream, give yourself permission to do, and know that you are what the world's been waiting for, to change, transform, and build.